Hi, and welcome to Extra Serving, a Nation's Restaurant News podcast. I'm your host, Holly Petre. Today, we're going to be talking about IPOs. Two chains recently announced plans to, or filed for IPOs, Cava and Panera. Panera has long been rumored to be filing for an IPO, and they are one step closer now. Cava, on the other hand, filed for its IPO. Guesses to its valuation are all over the place. Are we entering another IPO frenzy like we saw a few years ago? Also, we'll be talking about the NRA Show, why my voice sounds a little weird. The 4-day-long show just wrapped, and our editors have combed through the show floor picking some of their highlights. What did our editors see, and what were some of their favorite moments? Stay tuned. Finally, we'll be talking about KFC and its nuggets. Something that seemingly should have been at KFC all along, and was long waited, has already sold over 100 million nuggets in just under 2 months. Traffic for the chain is also up 8% over the same time period. Is it because of the nuggets? Now it's time to introduce my co-hosts.
I'm Sam Oches, Editor-in-Chief of Nation's Restaurant News.
And I'm Leigh Zinsmeister, Managing Editor of Nation's Restaurant News.
Well, guys, we survived.
Barely.
Some of us more than others.
Yeah, I would agree with that,
Yep. Was I a zombie yesterday? Yes.
I wouldn't know.
Take the day off?
I
Yes.
didn't hear from you.
I was not a functioning human being yesterday because I was very, very tired.
I woke up yesterday at like 7 something. Then I was up for like 30 minutes and then I took a nap before work. That's how tired I was. I had to wake up, drink my coffee, and then take another nap.
That's what the NRA Show will do to you.
I got up at 6 yesterday and went to the office.
Leanne is just a responsible human being.
Unlike the two of us, Sam.
Yeah, well.
All of your bosses say hello.
You know what? I spent a lot of time with my bosses this week, so I feel good about that.
Okay.
There were lots
I
of
wrote
bosses
in one
there.
too many pedicabs, I will say.
Which is to say you wrote in one pedicab.
No, I wrote in 2 pedicabs.
Oh my God, I missed the second one.
There was a second pedicab.
That's okay. Did that driver take you through the McDonald's drive-thru, or were you 2 for 2 on
No,
straight
he drove
down?
us to tacos.
He took us to tacos.
Even better. Oh, you were there, Sam. Wow, what a night. I
was there.
So glad that I have a strict 3 after-party rule for myself. Whole day at the show, 3 after-parties, dinner, hotel room. That's all I can handle.
It's probably a good course of action.
Probably a smart idea, yeah.
However, Holly and I and Brett and Alicia needed tacos really, really bad. And so
I said dinner. I get tacos after the 3rd after party.
those weren't dinner. those were the late night snack. But hey, it's a sign of a good show. We're all having a good time. And I think if I may segue into it is the attitude of the industry. I feel like there was a lot of optimism at the show this year. We were certainly felt optimistic about some things. I think most conversations I was having, it was a lot less dour than last year. And so I think people were ready to come and enjoy themselves.
Well, one interesting thing that Alicia pointed out to me was that there was really nothing that had to do with the pandemic anymore. There was really no gloves, no masks, no plexiglass anymore. It was
certainly not that there was none. It's just there was a lot of it
last year. We were seeing tons of it. And this year it was much more toned down.
Yes, last year I think was one of those things too, where it was like, are we going to fist bump? Or are we going to we're going to welcome each other? And certainly this year there was no remnants of any of that. So yeah, just goes to show how far beyond things we are and how much more into normal times we are. But also just again, this sort of status of the restaurant industry, as we've talked about on this podcast. Sales are up now, traffic is up again. Of course, not for everybody. And of course, not to say the challenges have gone away. Labor is still an issue. Inflation is still an issue. And those things kind of came up during our weekend. But the fact is that, it was 3 years of hell. And this year is finally less hellish.
Well, so you guys spoke with a lot of operators. What was kind of the main theme that you guys were getting from those conversations?
I couldn't pin down a theme to the extent that every time I thought, oh, this is what people are talking about, someone would come along and say the exact opposite thing. I think people are really happy to be getting back to whatever their normal is or figuring out what it's going to look like going forward. So I talked to one operator who is leading really hard into technology. They've got AI drive-throughs, which AI was a hot topic at the show. I'm sure we'll talk about it. Just like really any kind of tech, he was implementing all of it into his chain. And then the next interview I did, he described himself as anti-tech. If it's technology, he tries to figure out a way to get by without it. I asked him if he used QR codes at the height of the pandemic, and he said only because I had to. And then we got rid of them the second we could put out real menus again. And I kind of love that. I kind of love that everybody is just leaning really hard into whatever their thing is and whatever they love. And is figuring out the best way forward. Because for so long, everybody was doing off premises. Everybody was going all the way in on tech. And it's fun now to see people to watch people figure out what's our thing? What are we doing right now?
Yeah, that's a really interesting point that the unique challenges of the past 3 years really funneled all the restaurants into sort of one or two strategies, right? You really had to kind of play the line on what is possible, what is legal, what is, what do we think the future is, and everybody kind of funneled into that. And it's like this year, it's like that we've sort of come out of that funnel back into everybody picks their lane. Because yeah, you're right. I mean, there was a lot of high tech operations going on there, but there was also I had a lot of talk with full service brands while at the show who were really more concerned about people and taking care of people. And something that's played out in some of my conversations on Takeaway and otherwise definitely made itself, it seemed very relevant at the show too, which was this idea of, the full service brands once upon a time were really thinking, oh, okay, technology, let's use that for off premises and let's develop, these fancy, new small footprint things and do delivery and carry out and even drive through maybe. But now the full service brands really are back to, we want to really be thinking about our people, hiring the best people, taking care of those people. And then the technology is assisting that, right? So some folks say, the technology is invisible, but it's more back of house. That was sort of the other thing I thought with technology. It's like, okay, everything, a lot of the back of the house, a lot of the technology is really back of the house now to innovate around the efficiency that we've all been talking about for several months and making sure the operation can go smoothly.
Well, that's so interesting because part of our tech survey that we did with Christy Ravnenberg and Mark Brando, they came on the podcast and they were talking about this invisible tech. This is what we're seeing from operators. We interviewed 400 operators and we got their responses to a bunch of survey questions. And really the main thing that they pulled out of this was that invisible tech is key to operations and that's what people are really looking for. And so to see that play out on the show floor was a really interesting way to prove this hypothesis that they had based on this survey. Just because Joanna Fantozzi was also saying invisible tech is what we're going to see, is all what's going on at the show floor. And she saw it all there. She was like, how do I even take pictures of this invisible tech? But it's
ironic.
She was like, I need photos for my story, but there's no photos to get. So it was really interesting. Like we saw robots at the show for sure. They were the flashy, cool things that had lines for them. But the things that really had a lot of people at the booths, according to Joanna, were the invisible tech. People were waiting to talk to people. They got a lot of show at the show floor. Like it was really important to see this invisible tech for the operators. So I thought that was really interesting too.
Yeah, for sure. So here's an example from my morning that I have not shared with you, but I'm going to share with you now at the same time I share it with my audience.
Live.
So all they know is I disappeared this morning. So where I was I was visiting with some of the corporate team at Donato's Pizza. Obviously, most people familiar with Donato's. I'm now based here in Columbus. They're based in Columbus. So they invited me to come see some of the tech that they're working on because they actually have an innovation hub. This is relevant to the NRA show because what they showed me was a lot of what I felt like I was seeing at the show, which was they have developed their own proprietary tech that is automatically putting the sauce on the pizza, automatically putting the cheese on the pizza, and automatically putting the pepperoni. And if you know Donato's, you know that their famous pledge is that there are 100 pepperonis on their pizza. And then, Holly, you'll appreciate this. I made a pizza and I brought it home and I was eating it. That's another reason I was a little late to press and record. I made a pizza and they made me put the pepperoni on, right? So this took me, of course, like 4 minutes to put 100 pepperoni on. And then they showed me their newfangled technology. They press a button, boop, and it goes, and all the pepperoni is on. And I bring that up because that is, and they're saying like this is 2.5 minutes of efficiency right there. Let you take out of the employee's responsibility. And that's what we're seeing, right? We're seeing the equipment, the technology, the things that automate for back of house operations and create the efficiency we've been talking about. But I just to really see it in terms of time kind of helped me really understand the potential impact of this. To understand an employee could spend 4 minutes putting pepperoni on this pizza, or press a button and boop, it's done. Not only are you obviously helping your labor situation, but it creates bandwidth to do something else. And that's what they were talking about. Like, what do we do with that extra bandwidth that we have? They didn't really have any answers, but that's what invisible tech really means, which is like these technologies that can automate so much. It doesn't have to be fancy. It wasn't Flippy the robot. It was, it was just a machine that looked like any other machine.
It also lets employees do tasks that they would rather be doing. So the operator who's using AI drive-through said, like, across the board, his employees hate working the drive-through. They hate operating it and talking to customers through it. I understand why. It sounds like a really annoying task. And so if AI takes that over, then they can focus on the customers in-house. They can work on making the food. They can do tasks that are more pleasant, and then it helps lower turnover, which of course is another huge thing facing the industry right now.
Yeah, something that Alicia brought back from the show was tech that was looking for retention. So tech that was helping with retention and that was helping with labor solutions so workers are staying for longer. That was something that she really came out from the show floor with, and she was talking about on an episode of First Bite, was that, this is really the tech, this invisible tech is helping keep employees there and keeping them happy, because it's taking away things like it's doing automatic scheduling. It's doing things like helping with POS systems. It's doing all these tasks that somebody would have to do on a clipboard, and now they don't have to do them on a clipboard anymore. It's something automating it for them. And so that's a lot of the invisible tech too, is this like very specific tech to the restaurant industry that's helping with things like scheduling. And that's keeping employee retention because it can work into account what their specific schedules without having a human to create an error.
Totally.
Yep.
I will say one thing that is exciting that we're going to have in the future, so stay tuned, is that there was a coffee robot at the show floor, and they're using it at an automated coffee shop here in Brooklyn. So Joanna Fantozzi and I are going to go visit it, and you'll see a video on that pretty soon.
I did not see Coffee Bot.
Me neither.
We didn't read Joanna's story.
Saw lots of coffee though. Drank lots of coffee.
I will say just to comment, I think Holly, you mentioned it, but like there were a lot of service robots. And I just have to say I'm skeptical. That's all I'll say about that. Service robots, I just don't know. Yes, they're fancy and fun. Are they really going to replace waiters and waitresses? I don't know.
So I think that that's a different topic than like the waiters than the robots that are like movable arms and things like that. I think those are two completely separate robots that we have to really make a distinction between. These server robots we've seen on TikTok have had a lot of errors. They've dropped things, they've delivered things to the wrong tables. They're not perfect. And I'm sure the technology is constantly improving, but for now, they're not perfect. These robot arms are very different, and they are doing things that are taking away the tasks. They're like putting fries into deep fryers. I saw an arm doing that. Like, who wants to stand in front of a deep fryer? It's messy, it's hot. Like, it's taking away these things that workers just don't want to do. And so those arms, I feel, are a little bit more helpful than a server robot.
I think so.
And they're cool. You can like have a see-through like window in your kitchen and like have the arm just like shown. It's like a little tourist attraction.
It sounds creepy when you say it like that, but I know what you mean. Just
an arm.
I was thinking like the claw in those claw machines that your kids love, Sam. When I was thinking of an arm.
Yep. That would spook my kids if they're watching a claw like grab their unboiled French fries or unfried French fries and
I feel like they think it was cool. I don't think they'd be freaked out.
We'll see.
These ones have like moving fingers though. It's kind of creepy.
Yeah. Right. Creepy.
That's what we're saying.
Robot with moving fingers is very creepy. I have to admit that that's very creepy to me. Like, at least just make it a stable hand movement. Don't make them move. Ugh.
Okay. This is the point at which we move along to the next subject.
Is it? because I could go on for much longer.
I think
You're the one who wanted to get
it.
in and out and get out of here, Holly. You were like, we're going to be quick today. It's going to be such a short show.
No. I'm going to sit on this point about robot arms.
Creepy robot arms.
You will hear me out. Right.
You will hear everything I have to say. All right, well, let's talk about IPOs. There's no segue into that, so I'm just going to go into IPOs.
That was the segue. We're good.
Yeah.
They all happened while we were at the show, so that was super fun for all of us involved.
All being two.
And none of us.
2 IPOs.
But they were both at the show. They both happened while we were at the show, which is inconvenient time for news. Don't people know that by now? So Cava filed for its IPO, and Panera is getting closer to its IPO. They've both been rumored for a long time. Cava made announcements that it was making plans for an IPO. Panera is now making plans for an IPO, but Cava actually did it. Panera hasn't been public since 2017. Cava's never been public. So we do have these 2 kind of interesting brands that are coming out, 2 fast casuals that are coming out with possibly and definitely IPOs. So what do you guys think about that?
I think it makes a lot of sense for these 2 brands. You said something earlier, Holly, about, are we going to see another rush like we did in 2021? And the fact of the matter is that it probably, because that's how it goes. Like, you see half a dozen brands file in a relatively short time frame, and then a couple years later, you see them all go private. Not the same ones necessarily, but a bunch of public companies go private. Kind of goes along with economic patterns and ebbs and flows. Cava is a very quickly growing brand, even more so since they bought Zoe's Kitchen. I mean, I want to say that was like 5 years ago now. It feels like yesterday. Like, I remember when the news broke. But I think it was a while back. But they've been like just quietly converting Zoe's into Cavas and growing their footprint that way. And so I think they're in a great spot now to try something out. And then with Panera, as you said, they've been public before. They went private. They did that thing a couple of years ago where they kind of consolidated with Einstein and Caribou. Are all under one Panera Brands umbrella, not to be confused with Panera Bread, which is a brand under the umbrella. And so it's been, I mean, maybe one of the slowest moving IPOs I've ever seen, because I remember I looked at the stories before this call, and 2 years ago when they created Panera Brands, we were literally speculating about when they were going to file for an IPO. And we've been through like an entire like wave of IPOs and back since then. So who knows? Are we moving towards it? Who's to say how much longer it'll be? But of course, the news this week was that their CEO, the CEO of Panera Brands, is moving into the chairman role, I want to say.
Yeah.
And the CEO of Einstein is being promoted to CEO over the whole shebang, which feels like, making moves and putting pieces in place. So we'll see what happens there. But I do think, both of these stories make a lot of sense. It is terribly inconvenient timing with the show. But other than that, everything about this makes perfect sense.
Yeah, Cava especially, I have to imagine, is just gonna explode out of the gates when it's official, because they make me think of like Sweet Green or Dutch Bros, which of course Sweet Green is sort of come down from its highs immediately after its IPO, but you look at a company like a Dutch Bros, where this brand has seemingly infinite white space ahead of it, and an IPO can really accelerate that growth. That's why a brand does something like this. I just have to imagine that Cava is going to find a lot of success on the market. And again, 200, I think 200-ish units Cava is around. Again, similar with like Dutch Bros. I think they were at maybe 3 or 4 when they filed, and now Dutch Bros is at 7 something. It can just really help to finance some explosive growth. So Panera, yeah, I think Panera's just been spending the last couple of years, it's just been retooling, right? And Panera to me seems more like a brand built around convenience now. And I don't mean that as a slight, but it just seems like a lot of the moves they've made recently, they've really gravitated toward off-premises. What started as more of a cafe, more as a third place kind of restaurant concept, has become more of a convenience driven company. And that makes a lot of sense for a public company, I think, just because it's something that you can scale quickly, and because it checks a lot of the boxes that investors are looking for. It can be more profitable typically, without getting loaded down by all that hospitality and stuff. Don't mean to insult Panera, but that's just kind of seems like the model of a company that goes in this direction. So it feels like the last several years they've been retooling for it. So 100% expected that they'd be going in this direction as well.
Well, and they're super tech heavy now. They had those Palm payments. They're doing a lot of really interesting things in tech and loyalty. They have 53 million loyalty members. That's a lot of people for Panera. So I think it's one of the highest ones in our industry, because it's more than McDonald's, which is...
Isn't that Chick-fil-A? Isn't the 53 million figure Chick-fil-A?
No, 53 is Panera.
53 is Panera. What was Chick-fil-A? Was that something crazy? Wasn't it 60 million or something?
I think so, yeah. Leanne's going to be our fact checker.
I put these numbers in the magazine last month.
Leanne's got a reference point for us. Nerd alert.
Well, Panera is not in here, but there are over 50 million members in the Chick-fil-A loyalty program. Right. So they must be on par. This says over 50, nearly 32 at Chipotle, and nearly 29 at Starbucks. So 53 at Panera is outpacing Chipotle and Starbucks, both of which, have famously good loyalty programs. So
here's a data figure I would love to get, which is, it must exist out there somewhere. Please, somebody email me if you have this number. But the number of loyalty uses, so use cases involving a loyalty program that are off premises versus on, because it just feels like it would inherently be more off premises because you're tending to order those via your phone. And so you have all of the loyalty going on, versus it's not very often that I go into a restaurant, order at a counter, and I don't give them my QR code on my phone. Like, that happens. I know that exists. I've done it before, but I'm less likely to do it then. And so I say that to say, like, the more loyalty members you have, very likely the more off-premises business you're probably doing, because that is involving loyalty more often. I don't know if that's making sense, but if you're listening out there and you understand what I'm trying to say, please tell me, because it makes sense in my head.
It feels right.
What's interesting about Panera is they have their SIPS program, and I believe that's on premises. Their SIPS
you have
program.
To stay there?
No, but you would order in person. I don't know if you can order via the
You
app.
must be able to, because when they changed it recently, their whole promotion was around the app. It must have something to do with the app, because they said we're changing. They were like, we're changing SIPs, and also for a week we have all these extra deals on the app. I think they're connected. But when they launched their merchandise line, it was all on the app. It was all like, everything's going to be on the app on our merchandise line. Like, they're leaning heavily into that, versus I don't know if I see as many other businesses doing as many promotions on the app. Sweetgreen just did their promotion on their app for their new loyalty program. They just did their merchandise line, all dropped on their app. But Sweetgreen's another case that, we just wait and see what's going to happen with them. I did see some comparisons online to the Cava IPO being similar in price to the Sweetgreen IPO, which was bananas. So I'm not really sure if that's actually going to happen. Brett Schulman is a great guy, friend of the pod. So we'll see what's going to happen with that.
Indeed. Holly, it sounds like you have an angry neighbor.
That's not me. That's Leanne.
Leanne, are you the one with the honking horn?
Yeah, that was my door. No, somebody.
Oh, it's your door.
It's the Amazon delivery man trying to get in, but I'm talking to you guys, so.
Aw. That's nice.
Live without whatever he's bringing me today.
I like that Sam just assumed it was me.
Well, it was while you were talking
around Holly.
Anyway, yeah, she lives in angry neighborhoods. I just assume.
I don't live in Brooklyn, which is much angrier than New York City.
Brooklyn is in New York City, girl.
All right. Enough of the New York. We don't.
City.
Next subject.
Let's talk about nuggets.
Nuggets.
Some chicken nuggets. That was all I wanted in the pedicab.
I am pro nuggets.
Same.
When we were in the pedicab,
next subject.
We tried to order at the McDonald's drive-thru. So we tried to order at the McDonald's drive-thru in a pedicab. Note to McDonald's: you should really allow pedicabs in your drive-thrus. Just saying. We were not allowed to order, but we wanted to place an order for 60 chicken McNuggets, and so we were obviously at a late hour of the night /morning. looking for some chicken McNuggets. And I think nuggets are a big deal. I am also pro nuggets. And so KFC has sold over 100 million nuggets in 2 months. That's bananas. That's my new word of the pod, is bananas.
I was gonna say, everything's bananas today, isn't it?
You know I'm supportive.
Yes, Sam is supportive of bananas.
We'll leave it at that. Nuggets, also very supportive, and that is a lot of nuggets. You are correct. You know what this story makes me think of? It kind of makes me think of, right now I'm going to forget about the freaking Taco Bell, Doritos Locos Tacos. Man, the name briefly left me. It makes me think of that, because it was like when the Doritos Locos Tacos came out, it was like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. How did you not get to this earlier? Same thing with KFC. It was like, whoa, well, this made a lot of sense. Why it took you this long? And as we saw with the Doritos Locos Taco, which I think at one point in time was called the most successful new restaurant menu item in history. I mean, I think they sold like 1 billion of those things in like 2 years or something. This is what it makes me think of. If you make the natural pairing that people might associate your brand for anyway, it works.
I
love the Doritos Locos Taco, by the way.
Me too. That out there. And I love nuggets, and I haven't tried the KFC ones yet, so I guess I'll go make it 1 million and 100 million and 8 or whatever, however many it comes with.
You have an excuse.
I think we're gonna have to order it to the office, Leanne, next week.
Okay.
Yep. Due for some video.
If I must.
If I must eat the nuggets on camera, I will.
I always
What kind of sauce do you like, Leanne?
Barbecue.
Interesting. I'm not a barbecue fan.
I'm a big barbecue fan. I always, whenever I'm at the airport, I get chicken McNuggets and barbecue sauce. Sam knows this because he approves my expense reports every month. Like, girl goes to McDonald's a lot.
Doesn't get into the detail though, so I'm so glad you could unpack it.
No, but I'm sure you see a lot of McDonald's. It's always nuggets, Sam.
My mom had Chick-fil-A for the first time in years the other night, and she goes, I ate every last bite. It was so good. And I was like, Chick-fil-A is delicious. You should talk to Sam.
Yes, it is. Cosign. Chick-fil-A sauce. I would swim in it if I could.
Cosign.
You see what happens when we record? You see what happens when we record at lunchtime?
we did this every week.
I know, but it's 12 today instead of 11, so I'm like an hour hungrier.
I already stuffed my face with Donato's pizza, and I'm still dreaming of Chick-fil-A's sauce.
And I'm like,
I love the Chick-fil-A little like poppers. Those are delicious.
We're spiraling, guys.
We always
what
spiral.
Else is new?
At the end of the pod, we're spiraling.
Do you have anything else you want to talk about, Holly? Is that it?
That may be it. Do you guys have anything else you want to say?
No. I want to eat and then sleep in that order.
I want to go see what the Amazon guy brought me.
We all have other plans.
Hi, I'm Joanna Fantozzi, Senior Editor with Nation's Restaurant News, and I'm here with Tina Gantz, Vice President of Franchise Development for the growing DC metro area brand District Taco. Thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for inviting me.
So for our listeners who, I know the brand pretty well. I feel like I've done a couple of stories on you guys before. For our listeners who are just learning about District Taco, could you talk a bit about the brand and, I don't know, give us an elevator pitch?
Sure. So District Taco is a fast casual Mexican restaurant concept, but we specialize in Yucatan-inspired recipes because our co-founder is from Yucatan, Mexico, and they're family recipes. So Osiris Soil came to the U.S. in the early 2000s. Worked his way up in a restaurant and started really just doing dishes in the back, barely spoke English. So he learned English. He then went on to do construction and lost his construction job in the downturn. And so he was commiserating with his neighbor over some homemade salsas, guacamole, maybe a cerveza or two. And they got this idea for a taco cart. And so really we started out as a little taco cart selling breakfast tacos in the DC metro area near the metro stations. And that's how we started. And today we have 14 corporate locations. We've been franchising since 2021, late 2021. So really just got rolling in 22. And we now have 70 units in the development pipeline, working with multi-unit, multi-brand experienced franchisees. So that's the quick pitch.
Great. And okay, now that I'm hungry though, seriously. So I guess as an emerging brand, how crucial do you think tech investment is and tech innovation is to District Taco?
Yeah, so it's actually it's interesting. You heard me refer to Cyrus as our co-founder. The other co-founder, the neighbor who was eating the chips and salsa, is his name is Mark Wallace, and he's an award-winning IT entrepreneur and is actually the founder of the company who created Flyby, which I think is used, globally now as a location-based software. So we're pretty serious about our technology. We invest a lot of time and capital in I would say curating the best of the third-party systems, and then we integrate them in our own in-house custom-built dashboard system. So we run our corporate locations on this dashboard. We call it, District Taco IO, or the portal, and then we're setting this up for our franchisees. Mm-hmm. So it's critical. Yeah.
And it's so funny. I didn't realize that. I was actually I visited the Flyby booth this past weekend at the NRA Show.
Right.
And I think that's so interesting because especially I think that so many people were for a long time associated with being a tech innovator, with being a larger brand, and especially for proprietary technology. And so, I mean, why do you think it's so important to be a tech innovator, even in kind of this emerging stage of your growth?
I mean, it's much easier. It's like the difference between starting your business out on a spreadsheet and starting it out in an accounting software program, right? You never want to have to make that transition when you're really rolling. You want it to grow with you. So for us, having a co-founder who was already in the IT space, it came along naturally to a certain extent. I think, many people came to the realization that, especially things like location-based software, which Flyby is, we were going to have to do a lot more to accommodate, the things that were going on from the caused by the pandemic and things like that. But it's always about, whatever you can do to improve. We have many people we have to serve, especially as a franchisor now. So, it's always been about making the customers happy, improving customer experience, and things like location-based software will really help that, like for pickup and things like that. But also making ordering seamless, our mobile app, customer experience there, our updated loyalty program, so people can, use that more, earn more points, bring them into the family. But also a very important customer client partner of ours is the franchisee. We have to do everything we can to make, and the employee as well, what can we do to make all of these parties have a better experience, whether they're customers, employees, franchisees, that it's all connected.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's so important to have technology investment that positively impacts customers, employees, franchisees, kind of like that trifecta.
And why now, to finish answering your question,
why
now as an emerging brand is that, well, we are an emerging brand, but we have big plans. So that those 70 units I'm talking about happened in just over about 14 months. So, and we're just getting started. So you will be exhibiting at IFE International Franchise Expo next week. We expect to get a lot of traction. We do have some, another 15 units. I don't want to say in the pipeline because the deals aren't sold yet, but things are happening very quickly. Our expansion program, our strategy is multi-unit franchisees. So we're always going to be doing 5, 10, 15 at a time.
Yeah, that's amazing. So walk me through that dashboard, that portal that you mentioned. Obviously, it's interesting because it's proprietary technology. How does it work, and why do you think it makes for a better experience?
Well, I mean, as a former business owner myself, I remember just having all of these different vendors that I had to work with, totally different industry, and we won't get into that necessarily, but I just remember just pulling my hair out, trying to get it all together, having to chase, vendors for this, vendors for that, where's the software for this? And so anything that we can do, I mean, it has to work for us too, as a corporate location, right? We have to streamline our own operations because we're always trying to be more efficient, better, faster, quicker, more accurate, better data. So, I mean, it's just a simple, I mean, I can't really show it to you, but it's not simple, but it is a one-stop portal where we pull in our third-party software platforms that we use, and then some of our own. So our LMS is there, our learning management system. It's called DTU, District Taco University. We have all our resource guide, which is everything, all of our menus, ingredients, prep, everything is in there. And then the third parties, like we use R365 for our accounting software. We use Toast for our point of sale system. And that has a front end, a customer facing aspect. It's great for customers. We use it on our kiosks. And then also the back end, that's where we pull our labor and sales data. That labor and sales data then informs our accounting system. And in fact, we are now just about ready to launch yet another element of a dashboard that's going to analyze like the everything, like get it and put it into easy to understand charts. Like we have a lot of data, we have a lot of good data, but getting through it is another task, right? How do you pull it, and then what does it look like? So that's the next step for us, is taking all that data and but this is proprietary. This is proprietary to us. Yeah, I'm leaving some stuff out, but there's a lot of other like Jolt. I don't know, some people are familiar with Jolt. It's a great task management system, and then just the labeling. There's all kinds of things that we put it all together to try to make it as seamless as possible for our corporate stores and our franchisees.
Yeah, it sounds like you guys have really mastered the art of balancing tech innovation with efficiency, which I feel like is such the name of the game. And I love that you kind of like nerded out when you talked about data, because I actually recently I've been doing a lot of coverage on this about how data analysis, it's so huge and it's such an untapped thing. And so what type of data analysis will you guys be able to poke through?
So, I full transparency, I'm the franchise development person, sales and real estate primarily, and I understand the pieces, but I am not necessarily on the data analytics side. So I can't speak to exactly that, but we're talking about taking the data that we are gathering, for example, like the sales and labor data, and pulling it out and like just making it more consumable. I mean, it's great to get a spreadsheet and you can drill down and try to find that one number, and what were your COGS over the last this week versus last week versus but if you can just like make it a snapshot, it's very helpful.
Yeah, and putting it all in one place also probably makes a huge difference.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Because I think that's also the big thing, is that you never want tech to overly complicate things or make your staff's job harder.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely at some point you get to a point of diminishing returns, and so that's always sort of like something you have to watch for. And also, we have to remember there's something that's outside of our control, which is the very nature of technology is that it's constantly changing, right? So, yeah,
absolutely. And something I just thought was really interesting is that so a lot of brands about your size and growing and looking to grow have been debating on if it's a good idea to have an app. And so why do you think, I guess, like for customers, for employees, franchisees, why it's a good idea to have an app?
I mean, I think, and ours is a native app, by the way. We designed that as well. We have a very strong internal IT team. And so we just did a refresh, so it looks even better. And we launched a new loyalty program. And so that allows our customers to actually build and redeem their points through the app. And so it's just very useful. But, you get a lot of good data, right, on who's doing what, on who your customers really are. I mean, there are a lot of, AI programs out there that, use cell phone data to see, where your customers are, are they coming from home to pick up their breakfast tacos and going to work or whatever, right? That's another Placer AI and all those guys, but it doesn't necessarily tell you exactly who your customers are. It tells you what some of your customers are doing, but you can have a relationship, you can really have more of a relationship with your customers through an app if you use it wisely.
Yeah, absolutely. I think like I said, I think it's just so great that you guys are truly kind of like trailblazers in proprietary technology, kind of having such a strong in-house team. It's sort of, I've heard like larger organizations say things like, we're not just a restaurant company, we're also a tech company. I think that's so important. And so how do you, I guess, think getting all your digital tech ducks in a row, I guess, makes you kind of a differentiator from other fast casual brands?
Well, we've had from our, especially from our some of our franchisees, they've said, who have come from other systems, they've said, wow, so and so doesn't have this. They're like, whoa, and even like I mentioned, I do a lot of real estate, right? So I spent a lot of time on site selection, scoping out the sites, looking at the demographics. And while that is not a proprietary system that I use, it's still data, it's still IT, it's still, informs our site selection process. And, the food's got to be the best, but it's always location, right? So, that's another element of data analytics. Based on, it's also software, it's a SaaS, so to speak, and or it's a service, I don't know. Anyway, we have to have it. We just have to have it. And people, when our franchisees and candidates I'm speaking with, when I start to show them the technology, they're like, oh, really? Oh, they get pretty excited. So it's not just us telling ourselves that we're doing, great job. That we get feedback from our candidates and our franchisees that are pretty excited about our programs.
Yeah, for sure. Since this is your area of expertise, so speaking of that pretty exciting growth trajectory, where to next for District Taco? Kind of what markets do you want to go into, et cetera?
Yeah, so thanks for asking that question. So right now, we have we've sold a 10-unit deal in Northern New Jersey. We've got another smaller deal happening a little bit in Central New Jersey, 10 units in the Virginia Beach, Tidewater, Virginia area. We did a 40-unit deal in Florida that covers Central and West and Southwest Florida. So that's a monster that's about to launch. And we're about to do another 10-unit deal that's going to wrap up Northern New Jersey and parts of New York. And now we'd like to build around that. So Connecticut, a little more upstate New York. I like Richmond, Virginia, the Carolinas, Georgia, Tennessee. So in a big picture, it's the Mid-Atlantic, say from New York south to well, actually Connecticut, even Rhode Island, all the way south to Florida, and then over just getting into the Midwest. Like we're even in looking in Michigan right now. So yeah.
That's pretty exciting. And fingers crossed you guys come to New York City for my own sake. And actually my husband's family is from Northern New Jersey, so maybe they'll be able to try it.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Yeah, we're actively, I mean, they're in, we're looking at real estate all the time. So yeah. That should happen sooner rather than later. So yeah. But that deal has yet to finalize for some other issues, but it's going to happen soon.
Yeah. And so how do you guys choose franchisees then?
Well, we're pretty selective. We exclusively work at this point with experienced multi-unit restaurant operator groups. Multi-unit, they'll be multi-brand by the time they pick us up, unless they've sold out of their other brand. We have a minimum 5-unit deal. I don't know if you want to get into the numbers, but we like 1 million liquid minimum, 5 million demonstrated net worth for the entity. But really it's about people who understand restaurant operations. We're not necessarily recruiting people who and then try to train them how to run a restaurant. They've got to come to the table with some pretty serious, our franchisees, our current franchisees right now, they all have a minimum of 20 years. We don't have a minimum number of years experience, but we like to see that they've run at least 5 restaurants at one time, successfully. Yeah. Does that answer your question fully?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
And then I guess finally, what does the rest of 2023 and beyond look like for you guys? Even, obviously we talked a lot about franchising and expansion, but any other goals, I guess, in mind?
No, we just want to get the restaurants open. There's been a bit of a challenge with real estate. I'm sure you've heard that before. That does not, that I'm hoping that it feels like it's going to open up. That's really what's been holding us back, if I can say that. But if we can open some of these, get into some of these other markets, ideally we're growing in sort of concentric circles from Mid-Atlantic out and up and down, and just to keep operations, we want to make sure our distribution centers can meet our new locations. So if you're talking about numbers, we don't want to oversell, we don't want to just write deals to write deals. But we'd love to, bring on another, 5 franchisees, multi-unit franchisees in this year. I think it's entirely possible. It's going to be really fun to go up to IFE and see who comes by, because that's right in our expansion market, right? New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, the tri-state area. So, and then fill in, as I said, from, Southern Virginia through North South Carolina, Georgia. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, that sounds really exciting. We can't wait to see where you guys go next, and exciting to see you guys to see District Taco really explode, expand. We're excited for it. And I think that's all the questions I have then. Thanks so much, Tina, for talking to me today. Really appreciate it.
No, my pleasure. Thank you. It was great.